everything stopped. This was definitely a turning point for me. An excellent team behind you definitely catapults your business instead of one person trying to be the jack of all trades. I needed to take time to pause, to heal, and to regroup.
This is the Education Business Podcast for all founders and business owners in the education sector. This podcast is for you if you have an education business or you're thinking about starting one. That could be tutoring, publishing, holiday clubs. It really doesn't matter. You're in business and you're also in education. But most of all, you're focused on improving outcomes for children in the way you know best, through your business. I'm Claire Riley, co-founder of educational resources website Classroom Secrets, and I'll be sharing how to make your education business bigger, better, and have more impact through my own experiences and also the conversations I have with other founders and business owners in education. The Education Business Podcast is sponsored by Classroom Secrets, helping you to support your children's learning. Parita, welcome to the Education Business Podcast. So I feel like we've known each other a really long time. We just haven't stayed in touch very much. So it's great to have you on the podcast. And I'm sure a lot has changed since we last talked. So it'll be great to get an update. But for the listeners, what has your career looked like? How did you get into education business? What were the key points that led you to that point to get to where you are now?
Hi, Claire. Thanks for having me on. We have known each other for quite a while, haven't we? It's been great seeing your journey as well, right back when my kids used to use Classroom Secrets worksheets. So my career, it's been quite interesting. I was a primary teacher for about 10 years and then worked in some secondary special education for a while. And in total, I've been an educator now for 18 years. So I started off in the classroom until being a teacher and a mum of two toddlers at that time was no longer conducive to a healthy balance in life. And so to do both side by side, I needed to leave the classroom and reprioritize. So, in terms of education business, I accidentally fell into tuition as a stopgap when I left full time teaching. I quickly realized that I loved being able to educate students on our terms. We could be creative, we could achieve the same goals, but very uniquely if needed. And this simply sat differently to me compared to when being in a classroom. I always wanted to teach, but in a way that resonated for the child and the family. And at the same time, I even had balance in my life. I was present for my family and educating at the same time. So this vision actually seemed possible. So while LEAP was in its infancy, I also returned back to the classroom and did regular supply teaching at this point, which then opened up doors into secondary special education for me. So at this point in my career, it was about 2017, only about a year after I left full time teaching. All my experience was merging. And then in 2018, I was suddenly struck down with viral meningitis. Everything stopped. So this was definitely a turning point for me. I needed to take time to pause, to heal, and to regroup. So I've always had two parallels to my journey. My journey as a parent with a child who processes differently and has largely been misunderstood for a lot of his school life. And then alongside this, my journey as an educator with a vision to support students very holistically have overlapped with my role as a parent. So the strive to blend both worlds seamlessly became the goal. And it was in my intense recovery period that I realized balance was only possible while I was healthy and able. I'd only get paid if I worked. I had the most amazing colleagues and tutoring families at the time who were really empathetic while I recovered. But the fundamental problem of not earning still existed. I focused really hard on my recovery so I could earn and be myself again. But really quickly, LEAP began to grow into a viable business beyond primary teaching. We had more and more inquiries, more than I could manage. And so I reached out to a former primary colleague of mine who had also left the classroom. And in 2019, we're a tiny team of two teachers. So there's no website, no real processes, just two colleagues supporting students. And it was really clear at this point, this wasn't just a hobby and it was time to become official. So, Leap Educate, what we're now known as, was officially born in January 2020. And we acquired our first online student in the same month as well. And then, of course, 2 months later, everything, life as we knew it, paused while COVID took hold. I think I'd call this divine timing, to be fair, for me anyway. We were able to transition all of our students online overnight to Zoom sessions because of this one family whom we began our online tuition journey with. And almost 6 years on, I'm super proud to say that they're still with us today. Both of their girls are with us. One is now in secondary and one is still in primary in her final year, which means we've been able to transition them into that secondary journey as well. And I suppose this particular family will always hold a special place in my heart because they've always been there to support with unwavering steadiness. And that's what's been really special about what Leap Educate has turned into. We then grew from primary to secondary education as well, because lots of parents kept asking for this and we had no solution at the time. So we created this solution. We expanded the tutoring team to then offer secondary support. And at this point, we were able to then grow into A level support as well. We grew, we made mistakes, we learnt. And then within 5 years, we now have a team of approximately 30 tutors. We were at half that at one point, but today we've grown and invested in the most skilled and caring educators that I'm so incredibly proud of to have on my team. We went backwards to then go forwards because we'd grown incredibly quickly in a very short space of time. But as time went on, we've grown with deep intent and purpose. The vision to provide holistic education to students and families and supporting excellent educators alongside is now more than a reality. It is life and purpose for me.
So many people start or grow a business to find a better balance between work and life. And what's brilliant, I think, about growing your own business is that work is generally something you really love. So you can really get a lot of happiness out of all areas of life when you do that. So you mentioned that you had viral meningitis. How did that impact you and your ability to run the business? What were the effects on the business? You know, it might not just be negative. Were there any positives as well?
Absolutely, Claire. Balance definitely becomes the central objective when raising a family and a business. When one stops functioning successfully, the impact is really, really felt. So your entire purpose is lost in these moments, I feel. I was at this point physically and emotionally debilitated. The recovery period for viral meningitis is typically 9 to 12 months post discharge. So, with me out of action, we were reliant on one income as well as care for me and our children collectively. And this was, yeah, this was quite tough. But with any lapse, your why floods in through every single little hole. My children were reliant on me, my family, my students. They were all reliant on me to be better. So, with amazing health advice, along with personal discipline and really lovely support at home, 4 months in, I was well on my way to full recovery. This was an opportunity for renewed perspective and an opportunity to pivot. Better health, better life balance, better provision for students, opportunities for like minded educators who want to make an impact in ways we simply weren't able to in a classroom. All of these things were born out of this renewed perspective.
So you've talked a lot about balance and how important it is, and I completely agree. But what does that actually look like in your day to day life? How is balance showing up? What do your days look like managing a business that's really growing successfully and also has, a fair few team members, and also family life where maybe that's more challenging than other families might have? How do your days look?
So, after having left the classroom to seek balance, I had to honor it, of course. It's definitely a journey, one that comes with highs of kindness, support, and then on the other, lows such as guilt, self criticism, adjusting from being in a controlled environment of teaching to the free reign that comes with being a business owner. It was a tough adjustment. But for me personally, balance has become layered around my non negotiables, and being present became the overarching goal for my children's schedules instead of them working around mine, my health, friends, and family, leaning into the ethos and values that I knew I wanted to embed as an educator, following my dream to support students holistically and tutors who have left the classroom too. So, what this looked like for me was working during the day to develop the business and design a tutoring schedule around my children in the evenings. So, the way that we worked it flipped entirely. Though we had really clear boundaries, when I was tutoring, I was at work and they would either be at activities or completing their homework or decompressing themselves in the evening. This allowed us to achieve what we all individually wanted to in that moment or in that time frame. And now balance means we all get to develop our own paths as a family, but make some time as a family too. And the challenges are different at every stage of their development and ours as adults, both in life and in the business, academically for the children, their development, all the aspects that encompass family life, I suppose. But you do get better at adapting and learning at each stage. So when you've done it and made the mistakes, you go again. And then by the time you get it right, another phase kicks in.
Do you teach children as part of your business offering? Have you considered using resources from Classroom Secrets? At Classroom Secrets, we're always adding new resources for a range of subjects, and we're keen to hear your suggestions for resources too. We know that you didn't go into business to work more hours than you did in the classroom. You went into business to give you freedom. Let us help with that. Visit classroomsecrets.co.uk to sign up. Let's take this to a practical level because I love practical. So, what time are you starting work in the morning? Are you working only in school hours? That's what I try and do. I also try and really reduce the time I'm working in the school holidays as well. Is that the same for you? If something happened outside of those times when your children are around and you're trying to be present with them and it happened in the company, what's the process for that? Does it come to you? Do you have to jump onto it? If that's the case, how do you make it feel more balanced and it's not like the business is drawing from you? Or have you got people in place to deal with that? Have you got systems and processes to help with that? Because I think there'll be a lot of people listening who maybe they have some tutors and they thought that having more tutors would give them more time, but actually you have more team members. And if you don't have the right systems and processes in place, actually it creates more work for you.
So my children start school earlier than most. They're actually in school before 8 o'clock. So we always have an early start during term time. And this means that I've learned over time, not straight away, to lean into my most productive working hours, which for me are between 9:30 a.m. and 9 p.m. So a typical day for me is 9:30 to 11:30 is usually admin where I'm catching up on everything. Between 11:30 and 1, I tend to respond to inquiries, both internal and external, so from tutors, parents, and generally things that are needed from me in the business, and then have a quick afternoon break before meetings resume again in the afternoon. These are typically ones that are scheduled in advance, and then it's time to pick up the kids. So between 4 and 8 is usually family time mixed with tutoring if it's already scheduled in, and all the things that go with just being present at home. And then the reason I'm working till 9 o'clock in the evening or 9:30 some evenings is because I do parent consultations at that point if parents are working and we've scheduled them in. So there's times when I have to just juggle in the evening because parents are not available in the day. I do, and I have now tried to organize my schedule around the children's calendar and their activities, and this includes my tutoring schedule as well. I've done this for quite a while. When they were younger, it was their practical needs that needed to come first. Now it's more my emotional presence that's needed. It tends to change over time as they grow. Irrespective, they still need you. So I try to make myself available in whatever capacity that they need. So, in terms of the business, I've got lots of wonderful people who support me with aspects like finance, automation, and website. All of these things are outsourced. I'm rubbish at all of these things. Apart from those things, I've been largely managing the business single handedly. And I was able to silo both business and life because I had this support. But on the rare occasions I needed to attend to something that was quick, I could pretty much handle it without having too much of an impact on my time with the kids. If it was something slightly longer that needed my attention, I'd make sure that it was either scheduled in or my partner was at home or working from home, but we'd make arrangements between the two of us. So we were around. And of course, being in education, we're really lucky because we have the holidays to be able to spend with our children, whether we're actually in a classroom or not. And you're entirely correct. When the team grows, there's definitely more to look after. And it was at this point that I decided a VA was absolutely needed, in addition to the support that I already have, to support with the tasks that take up a lot of my time personally. And then I'm not particularly brilliant at or efficient at. An excellent team behind you definitely catapults your business instead of one person trying to be the jack of all trades and inevitably curbing growth. A team who has expertise in their own rights will definitely elevate growth. And not only has this allowed for me to be flexible, but this is exactly why we chose to probably start a business in the first place. It's for freedom of time, financial freedom, and having a team definitely allows you to achieve those goals that we probably set in the first place.
Listening to those hours, 9:30 a.m. till 9 p.m., seems like such a lot. I know that you've got a 4-hour break when the kids come home. But is it like that every day, or do you just work within those hours but find flexibility in them?
It's exactly that. There's flexibility built into that. So not all meetings will last 2 hours. They're just windows of time, which really help to support the schedule that I need to create around the lifestyle that I would like to lead and that is required from me as a mum and as an entrepreneur.
Thank you for taking the time to talk to me about the way that you've built your business and the way that you're still building it. If you had to pick something out that we haven't talked about that you think is really important for education business owners to know, what would that be?
It's been an absolute pleasure and a great question. We have a very niche yet vast industry at the same time. There's space for all of us, but in a space where the vastness can become overwhelming or all consuming, children and families deserve our expertise to come with highest level of professionalism, integrity, and trust, exactly what teachers are best known for. So I'd encourage education businesses to be a part of the solution our current system isn't able to solve without compromising on the above values.
Thank you for listening to the Education Business Podcast. This podcast is sponsored by Classroom Secrets. To find more resources to grow your business, visit classroomsecrets.co.uk.